Thank you for landing at the Cheshire Airstrip. At the Cheshire Airstrip, we'll talk about just about anything. And this is our maiden landing, so we appreciate you joining us. Today's conversation picks up on a subject near and dear to my heart. Is Paul McCartney dead? Sit back on a subject near and dear to my heart. Is Paul McCartney dead? Sit back and enjoy the conversation.
Was a fake mustache.
That is totally our saying here.
Dude, I wish I'd have watched.
Totally our saying here.
Dude, I wish I'd have watched that a month ago because we would have called the website Fake Mustache. I swear, if I'd have thought it, if I'd have seen that stuff, I would have been Fake Mustache. That Paul McCartney stuff's gold.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know if you would like it or not because it is kind of out there. That's why I was telling you to watch the Winged Beatle first.
Yeah, I watched
because that's kind of like an overview of kind of what's going on. Is saying.
Now, I can't figure out. He says he cracked the code on that anthology too.
Yeah.
What is it?
I think. I don't know. I never did figure out what that was. And then there's the whole thing with the briefcases and everything.
Okay, see, I lost interest there because it looks like that's him trying to get himself over, carrying a briefcase around.
Right. There's another video that's not part of the Iamaphoney. It's an interview. There's this guy, and he's over in Europe somewhere. And there's this guy, and he's over in Europe somewhere, and he was on this quest to find one of these briefcases that hadn't been found, and he actually talked to, I guess, the dude carrying the briefcases in the video, and it's kind of a lot of the video is just this kid going to different places trying to find this briefcase, and somebody is contacting him and giving him these clues and these messages and stuff. And so he ends up meeting this guy, and he interviews him, and he's asking him questions, and the guy basically was talking about the fake Paul. And one of the stories that he relays is when the anthology was coming out. So I guess there were 2 volumes to the anthology. The second, when they were all ready to ship, and he stopped it, supposedly burned them all because there was something amiss with them.
Yeah, he wanted 2 songs switched, the order switched.
Correct. So, there's a lot of BS with everything there.
Well, where you would have to start is, was there really a car wreck on September 11th, 1966 at 5 a.m. in the morning?
Right.
Is there even a car wreck?
Right. And nobody can determine that because, of course, it was MI5 involved in this, and it was all covered up. And supposedly this girl was... Okay,
you've done a lot more. I did not look into the actual car wreck yet. I just watched a lot of these videos.
Mm-hmm. I can send you some more links if you want, to some... Because some of the... Okay, so the thing with the Iamaphoney, once you get into, like, this... There's, like, I think 5...
Yes, I watched those.
Okay, so that's kind of a good overview of what you're going to see. Excuse me. So when you start watching these shorter videos...
I probably watched about... I probably watched a good 50 or 60 of them.
Okay, so you probably watched about half of them. And they're very... God, there's so much in them
They're
because
cryptic. Yeah, they're real cryptic.
and they flash stuff really fast, and
Yes.
it's like,
Overload.
seriously, you better not be epileptic really
Fast.
fast, and
Yes.
it's like,
Overload.
seriously, you better not be epileptic and watch these videos.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a seizure. And then it's the crazy backmasking music. And by the way, just so you know, the ringtone for When Herb Calls Me is the Fake Mustache song. So when he calls, it was a fake mustache. It was
a fake mustache. I know, it's stuck. That's hilarious. It's like, dude, that's awful. That these fucking people went back and like ruined Sergeant Pepper's with fake mustache. So like, oh man, but it sticks. That's what I've been. It was a fake mustache. It was a fake mustache. It was a fake mustache. I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers. And when you listen to it backwards, once they implant it in your head, that's what it sounds like. Of course, that's what it sounds like. But
yes.
if you listen to some of the stuff, like I didn't realize, it's funny that it's all this Beatles stuff backwards. About a month ago, I found some Jimi Hendrix concerts on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Started watching the Hendrix concerts. I was like, wow, some of it is pretty clear for being the 60s. Well, then off to the side is Jimi Hendrix's Confession and Castles Made of Sand. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, if you play the song backwards, they hear, it sounds like it's saying that somebody killed him or he made a deal with the devil or something. Mm-hmm. And of course, they're giving you the subtitles. And yeah, it doesn't like that. But if you listen to it differently, if you listen to it a little differently, to me, I was hearing the word suicide in there a lot. Like, okay, well, maybe he really did kill himself. It's shitty when they do that, though. They should give you 5 minutes to listen to it and say, what do you hear? I know people wouldn't do it, but write your answers down, and this is what I hear, and then you could compare notes and maybe get a little different interpretation of what some of the stuff says, because they're hearing "I kills him" or "I likes dead" or something like that. Well, I'm not hearing the S and I'm not hearing the I at the beginning. I'm kind of hearing what you're saying, but at the same time, I kind of not. So.
So have you heard the okay, so I think it's Strawberry Fields. Did you get to that part? The I buried Paul.
Okay, yeah, and then he's saying,
and he says
raspberry jam or cranberry
sauce. Yeah. You couldn't think of anything better than cranberry sauce.
But see,
that's retarded.
Maybe it was all an elaborate hoax to get to sell records, like an ancient Biggie and Tupac, East Coast versus West Coast. This is just their spin. This was the original business.
Well, maybe. Because people were ruining their albums playing them backwards. People were ruining their albums playing them backwards. So they were selling more records. And so this all coincided with the fact that after the Shea Stadium concert, the Beatles quit playing live. And they said the reason why they quit playing live was because they, first of all, if you catch any footage of that Shea Stadium concert, or is it Candlestick? I can't remember if it's Shea Stadium concert or is it Candlestick. I can't remember if it's Shea Stadium or Candlestick. But it's literally
Riot.
They cannot hear themselves on stage. They don't have any actual PA equipment. Because remember, this is back in the 60s. There's no, they're literally playing through their amps on the stage.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of the field. And they've got all these screaming girls that are pissing on themselves and passing out. And they cannot hear themselves play at all. And so they were kind of like, they decided, hey, we're not going to play live anymore. So this is where this big controversy comes in. I don't know if you want to get more into the story, or I can just kind of fill you in on what I've researched.
No, keep going. We can hash this out here.
So what I've researched. So there's obviously there's all kinds of people that have researched this. I don't know if you've heard of a book. It's called The Memoirs of Billy Shears.
No, I have not.
Okay, well, if you want to read it, it's like 600 pages.
Did you read it?
I've read most of it. And actually, I have a second.
Read it?
I've read most of it. And actually, I have a second edition that's an updated version that he got me for Christmas because he thought it was funny. That because you read this thing. So supposedly, the author's name is Thomas Hugh Harriet. And basically, he's categorized it as historical fiction. So this historical fiction is basically information that Billy Shears has relayed to him. Billy Shears being, it depends on who you talk to, Billy Campbell or William Shepard. This book, and it's a bunch of shit. Like, I can't, like, I was reading it and I'd have to put it down because it was just so irritating. So
Okay,
basically,
so
I mean, and you read it and it's like, well, okay, that some of the stuff makes sense, but it gets very metaphysical. So being is Paul McCartney had visions of his death. Like he would dream about his death and he knew that his death was coming and he was trying to prepare everybody. And so when he died, this guy, Billy, they call him Billy, Fall, however you want to refer. Billy, they call him Billy, Fall, however you want to refer to him. He already kind of knew. And so he had been preparing to do this. And so when this happened, John Lennon was over in Europe. He was in Spain or something. He was making a film. And so the Brian Epstein, which is their manager, took this fake Billy Shears, the fake Paul, and said, hey, this is the guy that we're going to get to replace him because, you know, we don't want people that. So John Lennon was really distraught and he just said, okay, yeah. So this dude he was a musician and he was from the area and he had done music himself like the Beatles. They called it Mercy Beat. That's what they kind of called their music. And so, and the Pepper Pots. And so he had to learn how to play left-handed and he, you know, this and that. And so he had to channel Paul. So Paul plays through him.
Okay, now that's silly.
And it's just, it goes into like all the songs that he wrote. So one of the things, he had several conditions because he said, if I'm going to give up my existence as who I am, I have several demands that I want to make. First of all, I want complete control of the band. I want complete control of the band. I want complete control of the band. I want, we're not doing any more love songs. And I think there was some other stuff. And John Lennon was just like, whatever. Okay, we'll do it. He was just distraught, you know. So they have to go back and convince the other two. And so you don't see them for a couple, 3 months. Well, supposedly Paul went to Africa to some safari and you see some footage.
Okay, and I was going to ask you about that because that was actually pretty interesting because
it
Paul
does
basically
not
he disappears for, let's say, 3 months. I don't know.
Yeah, it was about 3 months.
He disappears and then they show him on the African safari. And then homeboy says he gets sick and they put him in the hospital for 10 days or for several days. And then he just comes out of the hospital and then he just comes out of the hospital magically filming, or the next footage you see is him walking around like everything's hunky-dory. He wasn't just in the hospital for 10 days.
Right.
And I guess that's when they're saying the surgery happened to make this guy look like and I guess that's when they're saying the surgery happened to make this guy look like Paul.
Look more like Paul. And apparently he resembled Paul, but they were going to they had to do some surgeries to
finishing touches, you know, fine tune him. I get it.
Right.
Fine tune him. I get it.
Right. Sure. So so then they come back and they do Sergeant Pepper's. Great. And that was his thing. So you have the whole funeral scene on the cover of the album.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And so if you look up right now, if you look at the cover of the album, it's the funeral scene. You see the 4 old Beatles with the 4 new Beatles.
Let's get this on. I'm trying to get this other computer moving so we can look at it because I remember it. But album cover. Thank you, NSA interface. Okay, which one are we looking at? How about high resolution? And we'll pick that one right there. Why not?
Okay, so we're probably looking at pretty similar pictures. Okay, so we're probably looking at pretty similar pictures.
Open. Come on, man. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. Hold on. No, we're not, because this thing's dicking me around. Fuck it. Let me just click one. Click one. Really? Anyways, I'm looking at one. Here we go.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's not high resolution, but it's good. It's good. It's a good enough representation. So you've got the funeral scene there, with Ringo looking all sad.
Well, in the black suits.
In the black suits.
Okay.
That's the old Beatles. You know, that's the I Want to Hold Your Hand.
The young Beatles.
The young Beatles.
Okay.
So then you've got the new Beatles in their Sgt. Pepper's getup. Okay. So one of the things that they consider a clue, brass instruments. But Paul is holding some kind of black, I don't know what it's got a technical name on it. It looks like kind of like a clarinet, but it's some kind of horn, black.
An oboe, maybe?
No, there's an actual name for it, but it looks kind of like a clarinet sort of, but it's a woodwind instrument. Anyhow, clarinet sort of, but it's a woodwind instrument. Anyhow, that symbolizes death. Okay, so if you see the picture of Paul in the blue suit, and there's the fat guy behind him, and he's holding his hand over his head.
Yes, he's praising or he's blessing
the dead
man. He's praising or he's blessing the dead man.
The dead man, correct.
Okay, and then they show, I saw the videos where it shows all the pictures where there's always a hand above Paul.
Okay, you've seen that one. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you've probably seen where they hold the mirror up to the drum skin,
yes.
The drum head, and it says 10X, he die.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the other things is where it says Beatles, and then underneath you see the yellow flowers.
Yes, the guitar.
It's supposedly the left-handed bass of Paul.
Missing a string.
Correct.
And see, what I don't get is that's a pull. I mean, that's a stretch, because I'm guessing what they're calling this little blue set of flowers would be the pick guard.
Yeah.
Pointing downward like it's left-handed, but you're seeing perspective there. I don't know if I believe that.
Well, and some people say that the yellow flower spell out Paul with a question mark.
See, I think that's a stretch too.
That's a stretch too, correct. I think it's a stretch.
They said something about the car on the little girl's.
Okay, so you see the
doll's knee.
Doll's knee where it says "Welcome the Rolling Stones." On the knee there is a car, and supposedly.
Okay, and there's 2 pictures of what's his lips.
Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley.
And so that's a big part of some of this stuff. So Aleister Crowley, I don't know how much I haven't really studied him all that much, because it kind of, honestly, it freaks me out.
His name.
I would bet it.
He's a weirdo. Yeah, he's a weirdo.
He is basically the
devil.
I forget what his actual. I have to ask Herb because he knows, but he's actually. He wrote this book about magic, but it's spelled Magick, and he says, let them talk left-handed, let them talk backwards, right backwards, all this stuff. Supposedly, now, if you really want to stretch it out, there are some that say the guy that replaced, like, either the son or the grandson of Aleister Crowley. I don't see that, because I think Crowley died like in the 20s or 30s. But
I
Whatever.
don't know when
That's
he
another
died.
story that you hear about. Um, what else was there? There were several. I think was there. There were several. I think there were several other images that people brought up in reference to the Sgt. Pepper's album cover. I mean, it's what it is. I think it was meant to sell albums.
Aleister Crowley died in December of 1940. Aleister Crowley died in December of 1947. English
Okay.
occultist, ceremonial magician, poet, painter, novelist, and mountaineer. Well, you like to climb mountains.
Mm,
Probably to talk
okay.
to, well, no, you want to go down if you want to talk to the bad guy. That
But
make no
that
sense.
but that
Well, no, you want to go down if you want to talk to the bad guy. That
but
make no
that
sense.
but that's some stuff that they've thrown out. Um so there's that album cover, and then if you go to their next album cover, which I think is Abbey, is it next album cover, which I think is Abbey, is it Abbey Road is their next one? Oh,
Yeah, I see where they dissected that one too.
yes, and there's all kinds of stories there, and Paul's barefooted, and the whole funeral scene kind of thing. One's the
Yeah, the angel.
John's the Ringo's the Undertaker, and then Paul is the corpse, and then George is the actual Undertaker.
Yeah, the digger.
The digger, the grave digger, and then you've got the license plate on the bug, the Beetle.
Yes, the fifth Beatle.
The fifth Beetle. Basically, this, if you subscribe to He Was Replaced, he was keeping the band going, and then they broke up. So to me, here's what happens. They break up. They're no longer a band. But Paul and John continued to kind of snipe at each other back and forth through songs. And so to me, if he wasn't really Paul, why would you continue? Why even bother at that point? Why would you continue? Why even bother at that point?
Yeah, sell him out.
Why would you even bother? And how could people keep all of these secrets? His family. So okay, so then let's go this route. He was going out. Paul McCartney was going out with an actress named Jane Asher. They eventually got engaged. And then supposedly he died, and this other guy took his place, and they were still engaged, and then he met Linda Eastman. So, I mean, you've got so many people that know what happened, and you're telling me everybody's keeping their mouth shut?
Yeah, it seems far-fetched.
It seems very forced and very I admit there's a lot of coincidence, not possible. I mean, anything is possible. I mean, they've got videos of like where they're like latex, like, oh, his latex is coming off. It's like, really? Latex? And really, was plastic surgery that good back in the 60s that after 3 months he looks fine?
If it was government or something, if it was a government involved, I would believe the surgery would be a lot more advanced. But yeah, I wouldn't want to go around the corner. Jabroni Joe's nip and tuck.
I was gonna say,
be like, yeah, paul me up, and be like, oh, yeah, no problem, just snip snip. Here you go.
Yeah, go around the corner to get your butt injection, and they're putting caulk in your rear end or something like that. I've heard of stories like that around here.
But I saw something, and it was just a video I saw not too long ago, where they're quoting George Harrison saying that it was a cover up. There's it's quite a long little. I saw it on YouTube. You're a phony dude, I believe, but it was something that was piggybacked onto that basically. And it looked like some quote from George Harrison where he's saying that, yes, it was, but this is not coming from his mouth. This is just something some jabronis typed on YouTube. So
Oh,
I
okay.
far from believed it.
So let me just tell you, we got sucked into this movie called The Last Will and Testament of George Harrison. I mean,
that's what it's from, just hearing from what that sounds like.
Okay, so let me just tell you, that is, oh my God. Talk about, start watching it, and supposedly it's this writer, and he's received these little micro cassettes, and it's George Harrison talking about this whole thing, the Paul is dead thing, this big secret. And basically it was an MI5, which is the British Secret Service or whatever. And basically this dude is like, yeah, we got to keep this a secret. We don't want people killing themselves because the Beatles are not anymore, and da-da-da. And anyway, so they go on for about, it's over an hour, all this stuff. And so these tapes, quote unquote, that they're playing, it doesn't even sound like George Harrison. It sounds like a very bad Vegas version of George Harrison. So immediately we call BS on that, but we're still watching.
And they're just audio, correct?
Correct.
And they're just audio, correct?
Correct.
Sound like it's on, like, recorded on an 80s Memorex or
yeah,
something.
It's like the little micro cassettes. Yeah. And so they're playing these like reenactments of all the stuff that's happening or whatever. And so we're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So probably like the last half hour or whatever. And so we're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So probably like the last half hour is when we really bit that hook and took off. So they start talking about, so they play this interview, and this might be where this piece of audio that you heard, or this thing that you saw was coming from. George Harrison gave an interview on, I think it was Australian television.
2001.
And basically, this guy's asking questions about, I think it's something about when the Beatles were inducted. And so it was just George and Ringo. And he was saying whatever. Anyway, George was making his statement, but every time he referred to Paul, he called him Fall. And I mean, over and over. And Herb and I are like, who's this? What is going on? He is clearly calling him Fall. Fall. And so we were like, what the mess? And so we were like, this is incredible. Why hasn't anybody discovered this footage? Why isn't it, like, what is going on here? Like, point. And so they continue on, and so they're talking about this car accident. This is like towards the end of this movie or whatever. They're talking about this car accident. So they say that so the story is Paul got angry. And I don't know if he got angry at one of either George or Ringo, and he left, and it was kind of rainy outside. And he stops and he picks up this hitchhiker, this girl. And they refer to her as Rita.
Lovely Rita, me.
That's it. So basically they're driving. She realizes at this point who she's in the car with. And starts freaking out. Paul. And so what ends up happening is they end up getting into an accident, and Paul is decapitated, and she ends up getting injured. Okay, so just follow this through with me, because this is going to lead into the discussion we had last night. So they pull her out, and they take her to the hospital.
Okay.
And they give her a new identity.
Huh.
And guess who the identity is that they give her?
Well, what's her lips?
The name is Heather.
Yeah. I
am like, holy shitballs. what the hell? Oh my God. You know, I'm freaking out. So then, but then I start thinking, and I'm like, she's like
Yeah, you'd have to do
at
the
least
math.
20 years younger than he is. And she was probably 30 years younger than he was when they got married. Because I think he was in his 50s and she was in her like mid 20s or early 30s or something like that. And I was like, for real? So then it starts clicking. I'm like, no, 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 no. That'd make her like in her 50s or 60s right now and not in her like 40s. So I'm like, 60s right now and not in her like 40s. So I'm like, okay, I smell a rat. So I start looking through, you know, I start searching and I find the original video of the Australian television show where these questions were. And guess what? He doesn't call him Fall, he calls him Paul.
What'd they do? Just
They dubbed that.
tweak it?
Yes. And I was like, oh, this is some bullshit. So I start reading about this movie that we've just like wasted 2 hours of our time that we'll never get back.
Oh, that's wow.
So be careful what you watch on there. I'm just saying. Vet your sources of your information and clearly read movies because that was some major league horseshit. I was so pissed. I was so mad. I was like, dude, that was a freaking waste. I knew that there was something up when we were like, nobody's ever heard this information before. We cannot be the first ones to discover this, obviously. We cannot be the first ones to discover this, obviously.
Nobody's watched this documentary except us.
It's a bunch of rubbish and just, it was garbage. And I guess it was good for a laugh if you got fished in like we did at the end there. But you got that. Of course, you've probably seen where he was on David Letterman giving the Illuminati symbols.
Okay, and so a lot of those, like the concert footage he shows of not, I guess it would be modern, probably 90s or something, mids and Illuminati. It looks Illuminati. He'd be the right guy if there was one. He'd be in it.
There's a lot of Illuminati symbols, a lot of a lot of triangles, a lot of the Eye of Horus.
A lot of Ram.
Album called Ram. That was one of his very early solo albums, which it's a good album, by the way. There's, it's just. Oh, and then of course, have you seen the after our Heather Mills discussion last night? Which, by the way, that video was fake that we were watching, where he was dancing on ice or something like that. If you watch to the end of this video, it's totally fake because the judges are John, Paul, Ringo, Yoko.
Oh wow,
George. Yeah, it was, I was like, dude, that was Yoko.
Oh wow,
George. Yeah, I was like, dude, that was fake. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen on like Dancing with the Stars, but whatever this thing was, it was obviously faked. So
I want to say I remember the leg didn't fly. I want to say it came loose, but it was like right at the end or something. And I think it was noticeable enough or something. And of course, they praised her for being the cripple out there dancing anyways. After this was right after the divorce because she had just made like however much money she had from the divorce, and we're like, yeah, this bitch needs to be on this show, fucking gold digger.
She says, okay, so that's another thing. So there's several videos, and I can send you some links to that, where she's because Paul doesn't want to pay her anything.
I thought he had to give her a bunch of money.
He ended up giving her, I think it was $18 or $20 million.
Wow, I thought it was more than, for some reason I'm
maybe 36 million.
I thought it was like 70 or 80 million. I thought he was like sick about it because it was like it was real money. I might be wrong. First because it was like it was real money. I might be
Well,
wrong. I might be
first
wrong.
first of all, bad on him for not getting a prenup. But again, it was just a couple of years after Linda had died, and they were, I mean, they loved each other. So
I'm guessing that's what the Lily was. Linda Lily was. Linda, I love you. Lily.
that's what we've heard that stands for.
Yeah, that doesn't take a genius. I didn't even
Yeah,
hear that, and I was like, oh, that's
yeah,
pro
yeah. That's and you see that
code
on some of
breaker
his.
here.
Yeah, you're awesome.
That's
You figured that one out.
a code breaker.
But if you so she went a little crazy, sort of. She was on a British talk show, and they were questioning her about the divorce and all this stuff, and she's just like she's freaking out and all this stuff, and she's talking about this. She has this box of evidence. They would be horrified. They can't handle the truth. Like literally, you can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
They couldn't basically the world couldn't handle what I know, kind of thing. And she's protecting her daughter, and she's protecting Paul. And she says, and if they try to off me or something, yeah, I bet she has a box.
I bet she better beat up box.
The size of a refrigerator. Mm-hmm. Too many keys in that box, but whatever. But yeah, so she was rambling on about that. So there's that. It's just, and it goes off in so many different directions. Apparently Elton John knew about this switch. The Who knew about the switch.
And they've never said anything?
Oh, the Who wrote a song about it.
Oh, cool. What's it called?
We Won't Get Fooled Again.
Oh, cool. What's it called?
We Won't Get Fooled Again.
That's supposed to be about Paul McCartney?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
So
geez,
if you...
I've so got to listen to the words now.
Okay, well, hang on. We'll look it up. We won't... Oh, come on. We won't... Oh, come on. I can't spell. Okay, so we'll be fighting in the streets with our children at our feet, and the morals that they worship will be gone. And the men who spurred us on sit in judgment of all wrong. They decide, and the shotgun sings the song. I'll tip my hat to the new Constitution. Take a bow for the new revolution. Okay, talking about revolution, that's their song.
Mm-hmm.
Smile and grin at the change all around. Pick up my guitar and play. Just like yesterday, the change, it had to come. We knew it all along. We were liberated from the fold, that's all. So you think of the fold, the mirror holding it up.
Uh-huh.
And the world looks just the same, and history ain't changed because the banners, they are flown in the next war. Okay, where's it at? So let's see, we'll go to the next verse. I'll move myself and my family aside if we happen to be left half alive. I'll get all my papers and smile at the sky. Though I know that the hypnotized never lie. Okay. Where's it? Okay, so there's nothing in the streets looks any different to me, and the slogans are replaced by the by. And the parting on the left is now the parting on the right. And the beards have all grown longer overnight. So one of the things
okay, with Paul's part. Yeah.
Because it was on the left and now it's on the right.
And you still think he's alive after all these songs have been written and everything? You still think that?
And the beards have all grown longer overnight. So so the last little section of the song says, yeah, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So supposedly those lines of the song explain is dead.
Yeah, but at the same time, he could be saying at the end where he's saying the new boss is this old boss. He could be telling y'all are stupid. It's the same fucking person.
Well, exactly. I mean,
No, I get it. Yeah. Thanks. I thought y'all didn't even answer the question. That's no, I get it. Yeah. Thanks. I thought the Who, y'all didn't even answer the question. That's like,
No,
fuck off.
no, but it's the Who.
Who else wrote a song about it?
I think Elton John did, but I would have to ask him because I don't remember what song that was.
And I
have to ask him because I don't remember what song that was.
And I did see the song that was written like that St. Paul that the Beatles actually
Okay.
like produced or whatever the
Okay, so
record label.
that's a very interesting thing. So, in the United States, I don't know how if you know kind of how that happened, but this college student had to write for his college newspaper he had to write an article or something, so he decided to review one of the albums, and I can't remember if it was Revolver or he wrote. So apparently there was this newsletter that came out. It was like a fan newsletter, and it had mentioned something about Paul McCartney didn't have a car accident or something like that. And so he kind of took that, and instead of writing a traditional review on the album, he wrote, what if Paul was dead or something like that? And he wrote this article talking about, like, basically he made up all these clues on this album. And so he had written that, and then it kind of just, that was it. Well, then some kid read the article, called a radio program and was like, hey, have you heard about about Paul McCartney being dead? If you play the music backwards, blah, blah, blah. And so this radio host starts playing the music backwards, and he's just like, oh my gosh, it does say this. And all of a sudden the lines lit us back then in the 60s viral, as you would today. And so it just got perpetuated. But supposedly they've been putting the clues in the whole time because they felt so bad about kind of fooling. They were trying to slowly let everybody know that it's not really Paul. Actually, people say it actually started with Revolver, that they started laying clues then, but I don't see how. But it was Sgt. Pepper's. And so, you've got that whole thing going on, but that St. Paul wrote that song, and it had been released under some whatever it was released under, but then it got bought by whatever their songwriting
Yeah.
call it, whatever their music publishing company. I don't know if it was North Star or if it was called McLean. I think it might have been called McLean.
Yeah, something
McCartney
like
Lennon.
that. Yeah.
And that's the only song that they purchased under that name. It's very strange. I mean, there's a lot of strange stuff. I give you that. A lot of strange stuff. They said the mustache, so let's go back to the fake mustache, that the mustache was fake. You'll see an interview that Paul does, and the title of it is Fall's First Interview. And
where he's like twiddling with it and it kind of falling off, kind of.
Yeah. See, apparently he was incredibly high when he did that interview.
And it looks, I'm not taking that it is Paul, but that could be pixelation on that ancient footage too. Because a couple of times I saw it, I'm like, yeah, he's totally pulling that mustache off. And then there's a couple of times you're kind of, man, that could be like a pixelation goof because you're looking at it through a 2019 monitor now. It could be like a pixelation goof because you're looking at it through a 2019 monitor now. That could go both ways. Yes, it does look like he's twiddled it off. And it does. That thing looks fake anyway. So what? He put a fake mustache on. Maybe he just wanted to grow a dope. It does. That thing looks fake anyway. So what? He put a fake mustache on. Maybe he just wanted to grow a dope looking beard or something. Like he's trying to look like a beatnik.
Well, on the album cover, they all have mustaches. But if you look at the promotional video I don't know if they called it a musical short or whatever. That they used, that bands used to do back then for variety shows and stuff. They would do whatever their latest song was. So it was like a music video, like production that they did. It was for Hello Goodbye. That song. If you watch that, and you can find it on YouTube, it's out there. George and Ringo have mustaches, but John and Paul don't. And of course, that song is a big Paul is dead song. I don't know why you say goodbye. I say yes, I say no. You say stop, and I say go, go, go. It's them battling over the songs and just everything. But yeah, in that video, Paul doesn't have a mustache. He looks quite worn down, actually. He looks kind of beaten down. Another, I don't know, have you seen Magical Mystery Tour?
No, I
The
have
movie?
not.
Okay.
No.
So that's one of their, that was not their last movie, because Let It Be, I guess, is technically their last movie. But Magical Mystery Tour, that's you better be high on drugs on that one, because wow.
Aren't they all like that though?
Hard Day's Night is really good. If you've not watched it, I remember watching it as a kid, and all I remembered watching was them being on a train. It's a really good movie. It's really good. It's kind of funny and quirky, and just, it's really good. Help is pretty good. It's in color. It's kind of a weird story, but it's pretty good. Magical Mystery Tour is just messed up. There's a lot of Paul is Dead clues in that. The song I Am the Walrus.
Yeah, I saw that, or I saw their breakdown of that, where Paul was actually the walrus. And
yeah, well, it says, and here's another clue for you all: the walrus was Paul.
Yeah.
But supposedly, that was actually John's way of complimenting Paul by saying, for his songwriting, saying, you actually did whatever. I mean, but yeah, there's supposedly all this Paul is Dead symbolism in Magical Mystery Tour. One of the big ones is the ending scene where they're coming down the stairs. They're singing a song, and they're coming down the stairs. They're singing a song, and they're coming down the stairs, and they're kind of in the long tail Texas. And each of the Beatles has a red rose in their lapel.
Oh, except for Paul and the black one?
And he's got the black one.
Okay, yeah, I saw that little snippet.
That little gem?
Okay, yeah, I saw that little snippet.
That little gem?
Yeah.
And that's proof that Paul is dead.
They'd run out of red roses, so I just said, give me a black one or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's holding a bouquet of red roses, though, like in his hand. So, yeah, they didn't have any more. Let's take one of the...
Oh, also in that movie, okay, so here's something else, and this is one of Herb's big things. So in that movie, there is a scene where they're in this like cabaret. It's just a strange movie. It doesn't really, and I think it's John and George. Anyway, it's three. That was a pretty good thing. That was a documentary. And it was interesting, but there's a lot of John and Yoko.
Not a fan of Yoko?
She was not an attractive woman.
Well.
Another thing, if you've got some time to kill, and if you're into the Beatles and you just want to see, there is an awesome documentary series on YouTube. It's called Understanding Lennon McCartney. There's like there were 4 parts, and there's a 5th part. And this person that put it together, they did some freaking work, and it's pretty damn awesome. Both, I think they're all about like in the 2 hour each range. And so basically it starts out like the beginning of how Paul and John met. But it's all basically footage that this person has found and put together from different radio. It's a lot of captioning or reading like the printed text of whatever the article was. So it's not something you can just turn on and listen to. You gotta kind of watch it.
Yeah.
But we watched the first one, and we were kind of like, oh, okay. So then we watched the second one, and we were kind of like, okay, I'm getting kind of a weird feeling about this. And it was almost as if like John was in love with Paul. Like
Maybe there was something going on there.
You got that kind of a vibe, you know?
Going on there.
Got that kind of a vibe, you know? And then once you get to the part where Yoko is in the picture, John said some things that were just like, what the fuck? What the hell? What the hell? What is going on here? And so basically it was like, you know, Paul was like a heterosexual guy. He loved John like a bro, but that was it. It's a bro, nothing mo, you know, kind of thing. Nothing mo, you know, kind of thing. And Yoko was basically jealous of the relationship that Paul and John had because they were so close. Anyway, it's really good if you have like 10 hours to kill and want to sit and watch it. But it doesn't really get into the Paul is dead, although it does bolster the claim that Paul is dead, although it does bolster the claim that Paul is alive, because you see a bunch of the same footage and you're like, yeah, none of that looks fake. I don't doubt that they had doubles, guys playing them so they could get in and out of wherever they were performing. I get that, but can't buy that. I just can't.
Yeah, I never really believed it was a fake Paul. I was just stirring you up that one night, and then
I know you were. I knew
looking
you were.
at this stuff. It's like the only thing that's weird about it is that when you start reading into the Aleister Crowley, and like you said, the teachings were learn how to speak backwards, learn how to read backwards, learn how to. He basically says learn how to sing songs and communicate backwards. It's a lost art and this and that and other. And then you start looking, well, the Beatles were obviously tinkering with this stuff, and you can tell that even as a kid when Dad cracked out the White Album that one night, and you heard, you could hear, okay, there's weird stuff going on in this album that if you played backwards, you're probably gonna, there was definitely some stuff going on with that dude or with that band. I don't know what they were tinkering with, but.
Well, I know the song that always creeped me out the most was Revolution 9.
Yeah, that's weird because it's not even a song. It's just like
creeps me out.
That's Paul's car.
Out.
That's Paul's car wreck. That's the car wreck.
It just
said.
Oh God. Yeah, it creeps me out.
Yeah,
it is like the weirdest. I can't even listen to it. I can't listen to that song. It is so creepy. And listen to that song. It is so creepy and disturbing to me.
Yeah, picture that on acid. That's what it was for, probably. Play it on acid.
Do you remember when that radio station flipped over and for like 2 days straight, that's all they played?
Y95.
Oh, is that what it was? Holy crap. Talk about, I was like, ooh, you just put a big old bad hex on your station. Oh, yeah. It was terrible. That's a song that I do not care for, and I just can't listen to it. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of the Paul is Dead. There's a rabbit hole you want to go. It runs pretty deep. And it continues to run today, and it gets turned up. But, I recently, in my quest to prove to some people in this house that it's a bunch of crap, because they're always talking comparing like a 21-year-old Paul to a 70-year-old Paul. Really?
That's what I was saying. I could see the age now. In some of those pictures, the nose does look quite different, but that could be him being vain 20 years ago and saying, you know what, I want to fix this. When they start talking about his grill work, like you can't go down to the dentist and get new tombstones put in. It's kind of silly that people go on just that alone because there's so many ways. I could look like Brad Pitt if I had enough money.
True. Very true.
So for people to say, oh, that his face looks totally different. Well, he was also 40 years ago. I don't know what kind of environment, he's a vegetarian. He's not eating meat. Maybe that's why he looks a little different than some other people. Maybe that's why his structures are changed or, I don't know what his diet is. I don't know what kind it is. I don't know what kind of air he's breathing. He might be breathing that rich mountain billionaire air where there's no chemtrails and the water isn't fluoride and turning folks gay. So, of course, maybe looks a little different. He's healthy.
Well, and he used to smoke. I think he still smokes pot.
Probably. Yeah.
He was a pot smoker. He got busted in Japan with a bunch of pot.
But for people to cry about his looks and be like, it's not, dude, that's people to cry about his looks and be like, it's not, dude, I don't look the same as I did when I was 15, so I don't expect him to look the same as he did when he was 30.
Right. Well, exactly. And you're always going to look like, but not exactly. I mean, you're always going to look like, but not exactly. I mean, because you age, your environment, stuff happens. Your skin starts to sag, and you gain weight, you lose weight. Stretches your skin, draws your skin in.
Yeah, he was a rock star. The road will own you. That's
right. And so you've got all that. But one of the things that I draw upon is I pulled up a picture. It was really funny. I was or whatever. And there was a picture of this kid, teenager, whatever, and looked like he was with Reese Witherspoon. And I was like, ooh. And it said, Paul McCartney's grandson, da-da-da. And I thought, good Lord, Paul McCartney's grandson is dating Reese Witherspoon? Well, when I popped it open to read it, it's actually Reese Witherspoon's daughter who looks just like her. Like spitting image of her. Well, if you look at him, he is a spitting image of young Paul McCartney.
Beatle McCartney.
Yeah, actually pre-Beatle McCartney. Like when he was, like before they were the Beatles, when they were the Quarrymen or the Silver Beatles or whatever they call themselves.
What they need to take a picture of modern day Paul McCartney and run him through that baby filter that everybody's running their shit through right now.
I've tried to do age progression from like a Beatles.
Oh wow, you see, I didn't everything.
But I tried, but it was the freaking freebie app, like the freebie one. And it wasn't very good. It wasn't very high tech, But I did try. So, but yeah, it's quite a rabbit hole to fall down. It just depends on how far down you want to fall.
No, this is a fun one now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like these because people pull shit out of left field. Like you're talking about 6 toes and shit. Like, okay, well, what you need to do is when you're going to see him again, right? You just get a couple of beers and Herb and then wait till one of those silent moments and then have Herb say, show us your feet, Billy. And then he'll whip the foot out and he'll be like, 5 toes. Be like, it's Paul. And then problem solved. Yeah, just show us your feet.
He wanted to wear a shirt when we went to see him in Austin. He wanted to wear a shirt that said, something like, hey, like that, or, some,
I'm here to see fall.
or yeah, fall is bad. It was something to that effect. And I was like, dude, you're not going to embarrass me like that. It wouldn't have mattered because we had about 80,000 millennials around us wanting to know when he was going to sing Wonderwall. Millennials around us wanting to know when he was going to sing Wonderwall. So,
that's awesome.
And there was more weed in the air than on the ground. So it was, man, whew, I got some stories from that trip. Have you ever used Lyft? I got some stories from that trip. Have you ever used Lyft or Uber?
Oh no, I won't get in a stranger's car. Mom taught me better than that.
Oh,
Dad
man.
taught me not to get in a stranger's car.
Let me
What's
just
wrong
tell
with you?
you. Oh, well, we were 5 miles from the venue. We were at this hotel to Lyft because a girl at work is like, oh, yeah, look, it's really good. Da, da, da. She says, I use it all the time. And I was like, okay. So the guy was like, oh, hey, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes. So we were like, oh, shit, we better get downstairs. So we get downstairs and we're waiting for the guy. Well, there's this girl that's sitting, her wheels have just been shot off. I don't know what was going on with her, but she's sitting there with a laptop and she's got all this stuff around her, like her bag, her wallet's all out. She's got like cups and all this stuff, food. And when I say food, I don't mean like fast food. Like she bought a lean cuisine and just ate it frozen out of the package.
Ooh, friendly.
And she looked fairly well dressed, but she's holding her arm like her arm is hurt or something. And she looks like she's gonna pass out. Or something. And she looks like she's gonna pass out. And I'm thinking, is she homeless? Is she, is there something wrong? So I said, hey, I'll be right back. So I go back into the hotel and I'm like, hey, there's a girl sitting out here on the bench on her. It's really weird. She's sitting there with a laptop. She doesn't look homeless, but I mean, she looks like she's about to pass out. There's something up with her. And they were like, okay, well, we'll go out there and check. So by the time I get back out there, Herb's already gotten into this guy's truck. So I get into the back and the guy music festival and he is like, and I said, hey, if you could drop us off as close to the entrance as possible, that would be really great because he's got bad knees and, we're not wanting to have to walk too far because we know that we're going to have to walk once we get inside the park. I said, so if you can get as close as you can, that would be great. This dude takes off and I was like, wow, you got here really quick. And he goes, oh yeah, I was just up at the street at Taco Cabana getting me something to eat. And I was like, oh, okay. So, and then he's talking about like he was a GIS person, so he knows all these streets. Let me tell you something. That dude, that dude must have cut down every back alley to get to this park. He wasn't even slow rolling through stop signs. He was just blowing through the stop signs. So there in Austin, there's a lot of people on these scooters.
Okay.
Those like electric scooters or whatever. And they just zip in and out of traffic like nobody gives a shit. And I'm like, several times I was like, oh fuck, we're gonna hit somebody. We're gonna kill this dude and we're gonna miss Paul. And he's just jibber jabbering away and Herb's up there talking to him. And then so we get stopped at a stoplight. He totally cuts off this one person at the stoplight. And there's like homeless people panhandling like in the middle of the street. They're not even standing on the curb or the little like section in the middle. They're just like wandering right in the middle. And so when they say keep it weird, I think that's what they mean. Austin's not really my town. I mean, it's nice to visit, but there is no way that I could live there. So he pulls up to this place and drops us off, and he's like, okay, right here, you just thanks a lot. And so we get out. And so we start walking towards this bridge, and I was like, wow, that was an amazing ride. And Herb's like, that guy ripped the biggest fart 2 seconds before I got into the truck. And he goes, my eyes were watering. It stunk so bad.
Taco Cabana, baby. Taco Cabana.
And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And I'm getting in and I'm thinking to myself, God damn, that stinks. And he goes, I'm rolling down the window. So I'm trying to roll down. And he goes, I'm rolling down the window. So I'm trying to roll down the window. And the guy's rolling the window back up on me. And he's like, no, dude, I really need to have this down so I don't get car sick, kind of thing. Because he freaking ripped a fart. And so
shit his britches is what that.
And so
shit his britches is what that motherfucker did. Sitting in a puddle of poo. That's why the motherfucker was breaking lights and running motherfuckers over. He's like, I gotta wipe my ass.
So we cross. So he says, cross this little bridge. So we cross. So he says, cross this little bridge and I'll take you right to the park. Okay, well, first of all, it wasn't a little bridge.
Yeah, that already sounds like a lie. I could have told you that.
We crossed a little bridge to get to the big bridge to cross the river. And then to cross the river. And then going back, walking to the park, it was probably over a mile.
Yeah, he got you.
And I mean, because his knees, he's had surgery on his knees. He had that severed, when they removed that bone spur. And like we have to walk and then stop. Walk and then stop. Walk and then stop. Walk and then stop. And then we get to the park and we get in. And it's all the way on. So then we are coming, so the show is over and we're trying to figure out how to get out of this park. I'm looking at the map and I'm like, damn, well, there's an information booth. So we get up to the information booth and I'm like, guy, can you help me? So the guy comes over, he's on like crutches, and not crutches, like Timmy kind of crutches.
Like Tiny Tim. Oh, he's got, the two silvers. Oh yeah, boy, he got a winner. There you go. Put him to work. Let me guess. You haven't.
So he comes over and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry to bother you. He goes, no, that's what we're here for. And I said, look, he's got really bad knees. We had a hard time with you. He goes, no, that's what we're here for. And I said, look, he's got really bad knees. We had a hard time getting up here.
Yeah, and then you complain about Herb's knees to the guy with the braces, your pal. He's thinking to himself, bitch. Look at these, bitch. Look at these.
I'm trying to explain my situation to this man, and then I realize he's got two crutches.
Yeah, you're crying about his knees. He's thinking to himself, you're talking about his knees.
He goes, oh no, I feel you.
Yeah.
He goes, oh no, I feel you.
Yeah, I bet you do. Oh shit.
I'm like, we're looking for the fastest way out of this park. Like that requires a minimal amount of walking because it's really hard on him. He goes, well, just follow this. He says it's not very far. He goes, well, just follow this. He says it's not very far. There's 3 lines you can go into. He says one is for the Uber and the Lyft drivers. One is for the shuttle, which will take you and drop you off downtown, some random parking garage where you can. The shortest wait is going to be the shuttle, he said, but probably your quickest is going to be the taxi cab line. So we get to the taxi cab line, and we were in that line for 45 minutes.
See, that's the problem with Lyft and Uber is you've got these kids trying to make extra, a taxi driver. That's his job for years and years, probably. You get some college kid that's doing it on the weekend. He don't know where he's going.
Yeah.
Let me Google it on Google Maps.
Yeah. Well, the guy that the fart man, he knew where he was going. Well,
Death race.
I was like, death cab for cutie, basically. It was, I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to do that again. Especially when Herb complains about somebody's fart, that's pretty bad.
Oh, that's foul, huh?
It was, yeah. And he's like, just be glad that you were in there in just a second. So, yeah, that was, whew. Yeah.
Taco Cabana, baby.
That's what Taco Cabana does to you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you the squirts and the everything
Yeah.
else. So, but yeah, so that was our interesting Paul McCartney trip story. To top off the Paul is dead talk. He's not dead. I'm sorry.
I don't think so.
I don't think he is. I think it's a lot of hype, and I think he plays into it somewhat. Um, and I mean, I could be proved wrong, you know. Supposedly it's supposed to be revealed once he passes away, and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't do any good.
Yeah, that's not going to help anybody. Well, anybody can come out and say anything at that. Would be like, he told you after concert, I'm the real Paul. Don't tell anybody. I mean, you can make up anything at that point. He's dead. He's not going to rebut you at that point. Be like, yeah, he told me we were smoking a joint after this. Fucking rolled up this shit. He's like, thought I'd tell you I'm the real Paul. And I believed him. I was like, dude, should have answered.
There's no more debate.
Yeah, so he sucked down the rest of that joint. He's like, I've got to go. And then he's like, get the mirror, Sergeant Pepper's. He's still trying to sell me albums of fucking snake oil. The bloody shoes, buy the drum kit. I'm like, oh, it was paint. I spilled the cranberry jam. What kind of what was it? What was homeboy saying?
Cranberry sauce.
I spilled the cranberry sauce on my shoe. So it's not clues. It's just they're clumsy idiots.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. So I'll send you some more stuff as I kind of stumble upon it on that, but
Oh yeah, that's definitely worth the read. I say it was a good chuckle.
So I think there's something going on in there.
Yeah, no worries.
And I'll try to holler at you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
I don't know if you have a topic that I could research, but thank you for listening to our maiden landing of the Cheshire Airstrip. We really appreciate wasting your time. If you not, which by the way, he's not. I'm just saying, he's not. If you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up button and let us know. And if you want to leave a comment, you can do that. And if you want to subscribe, please click the subscribe button. And we will be sure to let you know the next time we Frankenstein another